The guy that's spearheading the Whitstable leg of the campaign, Chris Stone.
Thank you. Right. As usual, I have to write my speeches because I can't do it off the top of my head. I'm not very clever, really. Anyway, the Royal Mail's profits fell from 180 million in 2009 to 39 million in 2010, a drop of around 78%. That sounds pretty disastrous and is one of the reasons given for the impending privatisation of the company. However, when you start to look more closely at the figures, you begin to realise that all is... For a start, the company did still make a profit, which is unique amongst public services. We don't expect the police to make a profit, or the fire service, or the NHS, do we? And I suspect that most of the British public aren't at all worried if the Royal Mail makes a profit or not, as long as they get their letters delivered on time. Historically, the Royal Mail's profits were used to subsidise the post office, which is also an important public service. All of that will change, of course, when the Royal Mail is privatised and the link between the Royal Mail and the post office is broken. Once the Royal Mail is privatised, the post office will have to go its own way, and don't be surprised when more and more rural post offices start to close and the post office counter service becomes a small adjunct of Tesco squeezed between the deli, the electrical counter and the pharmacy. I don't know, anybody know the Canterbury office is upstairs at W.H. Smith's and is a appalling service up there. What this does is to show you the mechanism by which the privatisation agenda operates. It splits a unified service into its constituent parts and hives off the profitable parts while keeping the unprofitable parts in the public domain. This is in effect a form of public subsidy. That which can make a profit is given over to the spivs and profiteers of the private sector, while the rest of us carry the can for the bits of the economy which can't make a profit, thus threatening not only the particular services involved, but the cohesion and unity of society as a whole. The reason that is usually given for the breakdown in Royal Mail profits is the incursion of new technology into the communications market, or as the Daily Mirror put it, Royal Mail profits smashed by competition and Facebook. This is simply not true. Most of the letters that people send are still being sent. We might send birthday greetings to people we don't know all that well on Facebook, but how many of you have replaced the Christmas card list with a Facebook list in the last few years? Very few, I would suggest. None but the very young. When you look at the real reason why profits are down, it has virtually nothing to do with Facebook. It has everything to do with the Royal Mail spending vast amounts of money on a so-called modernisation programme that simply doesn't work. 400 million was spent on new machinery that actually slows down the process of delivery. You may wonder why your mail is so late these days. It's because the new machinery brought in to make the system more efficient actually takes longer to do its job than the old machinery. We have 2 mail deliveries these days instead of 1. One is first thing in the morning, the way it used to be. The second is at about 9:20 in Whitstable, which means full-time workers are forced to take a break in order to wait for the lorry, something we never used to do. So how is this modernisation exactly? By what process is it decided that a new machine, which is slower than an old machine, is actually more modern just because you bought it more recently, or that having workers sitting around eating sandwiches is more efficient than having them delivering the mail? Millions more have been spent on a new fleet of vans to replace the bikes the Royal Mail intends to scrap. Now, how crazy is that? To replace the world's most energy efficient machine, bar none, which costs nothing to run, which is simple to maintain, and for a modest outlay of less than the price of road tax for a year will last a decade or more, with the polluting, inefficient internal combustion engine dependent on oil from the war-torn Middle East. To replace a tried and tested method of delivery in use for over 100 years with an untried and untested method that everywhere it's been brought in has been disastrous, as I'm sure the people of Herne will already know. Something very strange is happening here. It takes a radical redefinition of the English language to describe any of this as modernisation. Also, we have brand new uniforms. I don't know if you've noticed that. New jeans, look, new trousers. Who on earth thought of that? Every single postal worker in the UK is being issued with a brand new set of clothes, new shirts, new trousers, new jackets, new caps, new waterproofs. And how much exactly did this cost? The refitting of an entire workforce. In this time of austerity and cutbacks, it seems, the Royal Mail judges fashion sense a more important issue than getting the mail delivered on time. Finally, they're closing down local delivery offices such as Whitstable and Herne and relocating them to major city centre sites such as Canterbury. Whitstable and Herne aren't the only delivery offices that are closing, by the way. Other delivery offices closing in Kent include Bexley, Tunbridge Wells, Longfield and Erith, and the same process is being repeated throughout the country in hundreds of different offices. All of this is being done in the name of savings. It will cost less to maintain a single centralised office than 3 local offices. That's the theory at least. But is it actually true? I've had my calculator out again, I've been working it out. There are about 50 workers each in Whitstable and Herne Bay, or thereabouts, 100 workers altogether. It will take about half an hour each way to drive to and from Canterbury. All of this has to be done in work time. We're not counting the journeys each postal worker has to make to get to and from work every morning. So that's an hour of Royal Mail time spent getting us to and from the start of the rounds. We earn £8.86 an hour, so it will cost the company in the region of £886 a day, which is £5,316 a week, or £276,432 a year. Knock off days and holidays, days off and holidays, and the figure still comes in at around £250,000 a year. £250,000 a year spent just on getting us to and from the rounds every day. How is that a saving exactly? What kind of accountant adds £250,000 to your wages bill and then describes that as a saving? This is not to speak of the extra pollution of having hundreds of vans puttering about in Canterbury during the rush hour, or the number of extra miles we will have to travel. It's not to speak of the traffic chaos in Canterbury or parking problems in the Military Road area where the Canterbury office is located. It's not to speak of the inconvenience for customers of having to travel to Canterbury to pick up their undelivered mail. According to the Royal Mail's own figures, this will be in the region of 100 a day in each of the 2 offices. I'll leave it up to you to work out the figures on that. All of this can only lead to one of 2 conclusions. Either the Royal Mail management is grossly incompetent, or it is running down the company on purpose for some end that the rest of us have yet to be informed about. Those of you who sent a letter to the Royal Mail after the march in Whitstable will know how dismissive they are of our concerns. It's a business matter, they say. They don't have to consult, and the case is now closed. It is time for us to stand up and tell them it is much more than a business matter. We demand that they listen to us, and the case is anything but closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Stone there from the Whitstable campaign.